Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship review series without access to a proper table, where today, after a little while, we are reviewing the USS Stargazer from Star Trek Picard, the Fanhome model, issue 2, so we're still pretty early days, meaning I can't confirm. God, first off, that's dirty. But they don't label the stands. Farragut's also arrived, doesn't label the stands. Yes, it has been a while. This one is about a month overdue. I mean, I've got the next issue sitting on my desk. If you just care about the model stuff, there's chapters, skip ahead to the next chapter. But I want to talk a little bit about why this was delayed and some extra things we're learning about Fanhome as a business. For those of you who might be interested in collecting this as the series rather than just buying these individual models. So yeah, this is December's issue, the December Fanhome Starship. Part of the reason it's delayed, about a month worth of this delay, is just my fault. We'll get into that. But the other part is that this took a really, really long time to ship. It shipped. I got the shipping notification. Well, no, it didn't ship. I got the "we are getting ready to ship your package" notification, the first dot in the tracking, on I think December 9th. This arrived on December 26th. And I know what you're thinking, that it's Christmas. You'd expect a Christmas delay. True. Like for my roll of 3D printer filament. Actually, no, a whole AMS, like printer accessories, which shipped a week before Christmas and arrived, funny enough, literally a minute before this did. It was actually first. I did some looking. The people who ship for Fanhome, OSM, are apparently awful. Now, when I say they're awful, I want to, preface that with virtually every shipping company in the world, except for like maybe some of the real big hitters like UPS, FedEx, are going to be 1-star reviewed, because absolutely nobody notices what their shipping partner is, who's shipping your packages, unless something goes wrong. And no one is going to review the shipping provider unless something has gone really wrong. But what's interesting about OSM is that, unlike other shipping providers, when I've looked into, why is my package stuck here, something wrong, is that most of the people complaining actually were like small business owners. It's like, yes, I own loads of business. Like, I own not loads of businesses. I own small businesses. I do loads of shipping providers. I never do OSM unless I have to, because they are literally always late. There's someone who called about a package that was shipped by OSM, and the distributor found it. But they also talked about how the company seemingly like abandons packages, and this one USPS center would literally just throw away tons of packages from OSM. That is one anecdotal. But the point is, the Farragut also backs this up. It took 2 weeks to arrive, which accounting for like an extra week shipping because of Christmas. Yeah, if you do get these as a service, I would imagine it's just a one-off purchase from the shop. Expect long delays. The Titan was absolutely fine. No problems with the Titan. It was kind of weird. That was like a totally standard delivery. But yeah, expect like your package to be sitting in a center, or even saying like departed this warehouse for 9 days and no update. Of course, the moment it gets into USPS, it arrives instantly. Now, hello people who skip chapters, you cowards. The other half of the month of this delay is that I didn't really want to review this starship in particular. There was a lack of motivation. Because first off, this is a good model of a Stargazer. If you want a model of the Picard Stargazer, this is a good model. Unfortunately, I've never been a huge fan of this Stargazer. Now, starships have rules in Star Trek. So there are rules to starship design. I don't know all of them off heart. I used to. But the two that are relevant today are basically, in order to keep these starships looking like they're from the same universe, like they're following some sort of physical laws, which they are, the fictional law of warp geometry and all that stuff. There's a lot of rules to make starships feel cohesive, not just Federation, but like Klingon, Romulans, that make everything look like the same universe. The two rules that are relevant today. Number one, nacelles must always come in pairs. They cannot work individually. Ships with one nacelle are, look, this video could be an hour long if I want to. We're going to ignore that, but you have to have pairs of nacelles. And the second rule is that they have to see each other. They have to mostly be able to see each other. I mean, you can have a little bit of blockage, but by and large, they have to be able to see each other and work in pairs. And the question that kind of comes up, and if you read like all 5 of the Starship rules, it's not a lot. This was a question like as early as these rules were made. What about 4 or 6 or 8? Like, because the rules say nacelles have to be in pairs, but there's nothing that prevents 4 nacelles. There's nothing that prevents 6, 8. As long as it's an even number, it's allowed. It's legal. And Gene Roddenberry's response to this is much the same as my response to this. I mean, yes, the rules allow it, technically, but you probably shouldn't really do it. If you do it, never do more than 4. That's the rules. That's kind of the unofficial Gene Roddenberry Starship rule. And the reason is that ships with more than 2 nacelles generally don't look good. This, hello, OG Stargazer, let's bring you out for a sec, is genuinely, I think, the only starship with more than 2 nacelles that looks good. Something about it. This one works for me. I can't really tell you why. I think, it's pretty simple. The nacelles are mostly kind of where everything's going on. This one kind of works for me. And I know this is a hot take. Prometheus, I reviewed. I don't really like it. You know what? Some of the Discovery ones are fine. 4 nacelle ones, if I'm being honest. But that's also one of the points I'm getting at. Is 1, I don't really like the Stargazer because it's a 4 nacelle ship. I genuinely think if you took the Stargazer and you did this, that is a better ship. If you did this, that is a better ship. That's probably the one I'd go with. Get rid of one of these pairs of nacelles. Both those versions of this ship are better. But that is not the only reason I'm not a huge fan of the Stargazer as a ship. Obviously not. 1, because I like the original Stargazer. The second, some of you have probably been screaming at me to do the entire video, is that this is absolutely just above and beyond a far better ship. The Stargazer is busy. Look at this thing, right? When you see this pops into, bam, it just pops into warp. What are you looking at? The answer, nothing. Why? Because you're looking at everything. Let's look at this saucer. You've got this dark gray, but also this kind of darker than usual gray. They're not really distinct enough for one to really draw your eye, especially when you count like all this dark gray detail in the back here. This isn't really enough. But beyond that, all this blue, there is blue everywhere on this saucer, and the blue is really the color that pops. But because the blue is everywhere, you don't look here. You don't look at the crystals. Your eye just doesn't really focus anywhere. You've got all this gold paneling, you've got the lettering, you've got the red rim, you've got these RCS thrusters are kind of big enough, the phaser strips, just everywhere on this saucer is busy. And that's just the saucer. Over here, you've got these multiple protrusions, 4 here, 2 arms, the 4 nacelles, these 2 impulse crystals, which the color really tries to draw your eye to. When all this craziness is happening, that's really what you focus on. The 4 nacelles right there, also, like none of them really draw your eye individually, but you notice there's things here. And it's all really close together. It's just cramped and kind of claustrophobic. You're not even like drawn to, the saucer or then focusing on the back. It's one unit. This starship is just so much better. Take this bridge, put it right there, thumbs up for me. The deflector dish, of course, could be an analog for just windows. You could have a top deflector dish. This really dark gray that really only shows up there and a tiny bit there. Just kind of helps having a little bit of detail. It's small, it kind of draws the eye, it pops, but really where the eye is drawn is, actually, these black details up here in what would be a bridge. And then if you kind of shift back, then this structure, you don't have this connecting bit in the middle. It's just a lot less busy. It's a lot neater. You can kind of let your eye focus here or even drift back to the nacelles back there. I want to compare this ship to the Sovereign class. And actually, to give it the best chance, I've gotten my tiny Sovereign class. My little one. Because the bigger ships that have more detail, on a bigger model, it's just not going to feel as cramped. This is the most cramped the Enterprise E is ever going to feel. And it's night and day. This is like a TOS starship comparatively. The Sovereign class is huge, and it's got so much detail. But the difference between the dark gray and the light gray, the darker gray is much lighter, and it's on a much lighter base. You can let this back bit here generally calls the eye. The bridge is actually closer up here, but these huge impulse engines and the black bit there. There's kind of a natural focal point here, and then much farther back, the dark blue on the... I don't know what those are called. Well, the turbos, naturally, but the blue bit, I actually don't know what that's called. You can yell at me. And this underside, again, it's got little areas of focus. But if you colored this in, if you made this gray super dark as this, you'd kind of start ruining the Sovereign class because it's just going to get too busy. And that is the problem with this Stargazer. The magazine, which I don't have on hand, the magazine has loads of concept art, as you do for the Stargazer, and virtually every other concept for this Stargazer I like better than the final design. And I think part of it is that you just don't have colored detail for a lot of that. You have minimal coloring detail, and it looks so much better. And part of the reason is, it's a test mock-up. You're not going to add the color. But even the geometry down here is just less busy. The nacelles are separated, or there's a version I love where this is very sleek. Much like the original one, there's kind of like the Enterprise D neck. It swoops up into 4 nacelles. And to be fair, the reason this big bulk thing is here, you can see there's an observation lounge kind of under there. That's where apparently a lot of scenes take place. The script calls for it. I don't remember a single one, but hey, it's there. The VFX team were concerned. Even though the script is set in an observation room, they didn't want to have to render a star field behind them in all those meetings in the warp. They were afraid of budget. So they wanted a big, static, physical thing that was blocking the window. Which, to me, that means don't set your scenes in an observation room. But they built this big, horrible thing that no one really likes. That's what the magazine said. No one likes this big thing, and I agree. It's ruining the whole design. As I said, this is so much better. But yeah, it's just a bit busy. And I think when I pulled this out of the box, I knew I wasn't a big fan of the Stargazer. My first impression was like, okay, that's actually a fairly nice design. I can get it. But the more I've had it on my desk, the more I'm like, is it though? It's not the worst thing. There are worse. But it's a 24th century Stargazer, but the Stargazer's built on a concept I'm not a huge fan of anyway. I don't know. It's also difficult to put on its stand if you're not looking at it in exactly the right place. But I think we've spoken enough now about my thoughts on the Stargazer subjectively as a starship. So what about this Stargazer, this Fanhome model right here? How does that compare? Well, as I said at the start, this is a good model of the Stargazer. You get a bad ship, you get a model that has the same ship's problems as the ship. But this is actually a really good ship. First off, I want to compare it to the Titan A. We have 2 starships from the same line. In fact, they're from the same time period, supposedly. I'm not going to bring the Farragut out, spoilers. But right here, first off, I think these are very cohesive. They look like they are ships from the same era as much as the Titan in the Stargazer do in the show. You've got that same color base coat, the same style of Aztecing in the back, the same sort of weathering. Funny enough, they are actually different nacelles. I've mentioned in the Titan review that book said they were the same nacelles and they look slightly different. they are different nacelles, even as models, but obviously of the same lineage. The Titan does have impulse crystals. They're pretty similar to the casings of this impulse crystal. I think Picard was very nostalgic for like TMP era 23rd century, and it shows. In fact, this Stargazer is actually a pretty good blend of the original and this sort of Titan aesthetic, but with the Sovereign class thrown in. Where are you? There we go, with the Sovereign class thrown in. So they did do a good job at blending those three starships. The brief, according to the magazine, was like, take this, but make it all Sovereign-like. Harold Freeman would hate it. But also, when we think about Eaglemoss's general, I'll put a picture up of this now. Sorry, editing me. But when you put the Titan A next to the Discovery fleet, it looks like the junky, sort of early days cobbled together vibe that Discovery's going for, but a little more refined, because as we've discussed thoroughly, the Titan's just a 23rd century starship with a gray coat of paint. The Sovereign class looks like it belongs, again, with that whole fleet, as much as like my XL Sovereign or like my Akira does. It just looks more advanced. It looks like it's from the future. So kudos to Fanhome. I mean, unsurprisingly, given who's involved, but these don't look out of place with all my Eaglemoss models at all, especially, the ones of this size, which, if Enemy can find a good one of this size for, like, the TNG era, I might try and put that up as well. I don't know if they made one, though. But yeah, so this is good for both Thingen with Eaglemoss and Fanhome. Also, with my Farragut, it's similar vibes. It's obviously a starship from a different era. The Farragut is one of the reasons I'm doing this review. I really want to talk about the Farragut, but hey, let's do it right. But yeah, if you want to build a collection out of these, I think it'll look good, especially as we get more 25th era Starfleet designs. Because, the Stargazer is a little darker than the Titan A in show. So that is feeling a little bit off, but they're not, and they shouldn't change the ships from what they look like in their show, just to kind of look more cohesive. Look, if you want me to, like, slag off the Enterprise GG a bit more, just watch next month's review. But anyway, as for the Stargazer, in its own right, going up, let's start with the saucer section. All the windows, I think, are well applied. I mean, as they said, they do pop. I just think there's too many of them. I think there is some misalignment, but yeah, I mean, there you go. It's not really noticeable unless you get real close. Hey, this is functionally Eaglemoss. We're all used to misalignment. The sculpting is good, like on the bridge. This section here is actually very 25th century, that sort of semi-oval that goes in. The Enterprise G, I'm looking, also has that sort of shape. I guess it's just a statement, a sort of motif of the era. I'm not the biggest fan of how they've blended the saucer with the secondary hull on this side, just design-wise as well, not really as a model, although I guess some of the paint is bleeding up onto there. The phaser ships looks nice. Everything that you would expect to be bumpy is bumpy. In fact, even this, I assume airlock right there has got a little indent kind of around the circle. This is all bumpy. The windows are bumpy. So yeah, it is nicely done. Back here, the secondary hull is a little less Aztec'd and more weathered, which does kind of help it break away from the primary hull a little bit. The impulse crystals are nice. It does feel a little weird seeing impulse crystals so late, especially of this design. I always think of them as like movie era or later. They do exist. I mean, I don't think they're going to show up on that little Sovereign. It's just something for me that's always been a little weird seeing them, especially this shade of blue. This bit in here is actually a feature I don't really know if you get to see in the show too much. But it was interesting. That right there is supposed to be basically a little landing bay. So like kind of like Deep Space Nine when the runabouts would land on those arm bits and then sink into a shuttle bay. That's what that thing is. And you can see, I do like, the observation bay is modeled, and these huge windows to kind of overlook the landing bay. I do think it gets lost in just how weathered and gray it is. I wish this had maybe like some yellow or red striping around it. You can kind of see the blue. Actually, no, that's just a reflection. In the renders, there's like a blue little warning for like variable gravity zone, as a lot of shuttle bays have in Star Trek. But I do suppose looking on there is a lot of detail. There are a lot of little greeblies. All the greeblies are very well done. I just think this starship has too many of them. I do also want to point out that you might go, oh, if it didn't have greeblies, it'd be boring. Tune in for the Farragut. By God, that was a pleasant surprise. I'll link the Farragut once that video's out, actually, because I keep referencing so much in the description. Over here on the back of the saucer section, you've got a little shuttle bay. Sorry, not the saucer section, the secondary hull, but they are kind of the same thing. You've got a lot of the text: United Federation of Planets, USS Stargazer, NCC 82893. That is actually earlier. No, it's not. It's after the Titan. I was gonna say, I might have to go get my Titan to see the registry. No, the Titan is 800. What's 806 then? Is that the Cerritos? No, the Cerritos is even lower. Someone in the comments, who has the registry 86 something something something? Like, what ship am I thinking of there? But no, anyway, yeah, as I said, the application's really well done. These nacelles, I do like how the dark red pops. Heck, I like how the blue pops as well. Film lights generally show this off pretty well. There, you can get kind of a sort of semi-translucent glow coming through there. I do like as well on the back here, the way the blue comes through. If you put like a bright light behind them, they look really glowy. It's a cool thing if you can find lights that won't damage your models, as I get terrified with all these film lights pointing at my modular buildings. Please forgive me, LEGO fans. But yeah, now let's improve this ship 1,000-fold. Here we go. Let's look at the saucer section. I really do love this round bit here, the way it bumps, the way it goes and curves out. It's very reminiscent of vaguely the sort of like rocket ships, like Captain Proton sort of thing you might get in the like 20s, 60s more, I don't know. Like old black and white films. In Star Trek lore, a bit of a oh my gosh, the Enterprise OVC, I don't remember what it's called. Picture on screen. Sorry, editing, Nathan. Yeah, I just find this so much better, and I really like this rounded area here. I love the cut, where you just get rid of the observation here. Remove the bit that nobody liked. I'm really liking that there. You can see more wording, more weathering on the nacelles. Little bits of detail. What even is that? I think that's just a design that looks good. They've put on those little round bits in there. And yeah, just a much better distribution of windows, of weathering. There you go, our gold paneling, our little red pin striping on things. You can see my thumb. We are at a very small zoomed in scale here, but around the phaser banks, these little motifs that the original Enterprise had, and on way more ships than I think. But yeah, look at this. This is so much better as a ship. Why doesn't the Stargazer look like this? Come on, this, like, I don't know. I kind of wish the 24th century, not 24th, 25th century, would lean maybe a little more detailed than this on average, but was less cluttered. We'll get more 25th century ships. This is a 23rd century ship. But one thing it did right is not be busy. Here we go. This underside of the Titan A. That's a really good level of detailed busyness. These two. This is a great little view. And now that I've seen a majesty of the Farragut, I think I'm a little obsessed with the low detail designs. I'm actually looking forward to the Strange New Worlds models now, absolutely. So yeah, is it worth your money? I don't know, how rich are you? And how much do you like the Stargazer? If you want a good model of Stargazer, this is definitely good. I will say one positive, I do kind of like this feeling of momentum they get by pushing these nacelles back. You can see the bottom one is a little bit further back. I kind of like that the nacelles are up, and so the top ones are paired and the bottom ones are paired. It has kind of bothered me with the Stargazer how it paired this way. It kind of feels like it should fly sideways, you know? By the way, this is one of the unreleased Eagle Moss models. If this is the first time you're seeing the Stargazer, you can probably get it secondhand if you really wanted to. Whoopsie. Actually, is it unreleased? I can't remember anymore. It was either their last XL or their last unreleased ship. But yeah, at the moment, there aren't plans for like an XL Stargazer. You know what? This might be better served by an XL, where just because of scale, a lot of the busyness is more spread out. Possibly, I don't think you can really overcome some of the flaws, like how close the back and front are. I think they could be mitigated, but not totally overcome. Yeah, there we go. I guess that's my review of the Stargazer. I did it. It's not a ship I am a particularly big fan of. However, this is a very good model of that ship. I also would like to point out that the ship sags forward and the little glass bit doesn't really sit in the stand. Like, I'm afraid of breaking it. This was an Eagle Moss problem as well. Look, that's going up. That's like optimistic, hopeful, and then when you actually use it, it sags to being flat. It's a real annoying problem that Eagle Moss had. Also, yes, the stand on my Titan A is broken. Let's pretend I did that recently and not like literally, I think the day after I recorded the video. I knocked it off my desk. But actually, that's worth noting. Yeah, I knocked the Titan A off of my desk and I was terrified. It's like a day and I already broke my model. But no, this obviously broke. I could probably glue that top bit on. I don't know if I still have the piece. Well, there go all the Spider-Men celebrating the arrival of Kevin Feige over there. But, this model's fine. This fell off my desk. More than that, I think it fell off my desk and landed on the nacelles. I can't remember. It landed like horribly. I was like, God, that's broken. No, absolutely fine. So there's certainly durability in these models. I mean, I wouldn't recommend throwing them on the floor. I have a chair full of broken Eagle Moss models from having knocked them over, and many, many more broken stands. Do not display these overhanging anything. I have 3 Enterprise XCV 330s. I think all 3 of them are somehow broken because I wouldn't learn my lesson for a very long time. But yeah, that's worth noting. They're decently durable, given what they are. But yeah, at that, I will repair the Spider-Men. Sounds like a euphemism or something. I will repair the Spider-Men, and I will say thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time!